Hello everyone, I'm Franz Welcome, and for my culture issue, I've decided to focus on veterans who suffer from PTSD and addiction. As a combat veteran myself and someone who has lost friends to suicide, this issue is personal. I've seen how trauma follows you home and how often the support just isn't there. I've pulled together 5 sources to dig deeper. The first, called The Invisible Wounds of War by the RAND Corporation, breaks down the psychological toll of combat, and it shows how PTSD and brain injuries can change a veteran's life forever. The next report from the Institute of Medicine, which I found on the National Library of Medicine site, notes that between 2001 and 2010, 1.9 million service members served in Iraq and Afghanistan. 89% of those were men, 11% were women, and with 40% having multiple combat deployments. That level of exposure made long-term trauma nearly unavoidable for many of us. The third source is from the Oxford Treatment Center, which explains how PTSD and addiction are often connected. Veterans may turn to substances to numb nightmares or escape survivors' guilt. It shows how trauma and addiction can feed off one another in a cycle that's hard to break. Fourth, the 12 South Recovery article focuses specifically on veterans, and it dives into how combat rewires the brain, raising risk of substance abuse and relapse. It also explains why early intervention is key. And finally, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, the SAMHSA, guide gives educators advice on how to talk about mental health in a way that's trauma-informed and compassionate. Honestly, I think teachers sometimes do a far better job than some medical providers. When you're around trauma long enough, it's easy to go numb. And that's when people need empathy the most. In my detective story, Burnt Truths, my character, Frank Walker, who is a veteran with PTSD, he is sharp, he's sarcastic, he's carried a lot of pain, and when a burnt body turns up outside of a US military base in Germany, Frank's investigation uncovers more than just a murder. It exposes a system that fails the very people it was supposed to protect. My goal is to show the readers the reality behind the uniform. These aren't just war stories, they are human stories. And sometimes the most dangerous battles start after the war ends. Thank you, everyone.